Has to be predicted. Now, if you think I'm watching that dog shit, you out of your mind. But has to be predicted. It seems that the Halo show is exactly what really they were saying that it was going to be. But you know, you get those that try to hold out hope and they say, "Oh well, just give it a shot, give it a chance, give it a chance." No, these companies do not. You don't owe them your hope at all. They made it clear that they don't like you. They don't like the source material upon what they're using. And then, as we've said so many times, if they haven't got to your brand that you loved, they'll get to it. But these are just brands and an outlet for weirdos to tell whatever goofy story that they wanted to tell. You could swap out the names and the sort of visual stuff that they put to make it seem like it's connected to whatever brand they slapped on it. But you could swap those out and it could be the same damn story because they want to tell the wrong damn stories. Let's read what someone that looked into it actually had to say about it. Slade from Bound Again in Comics. The first episode of Paramount's television adaptation of Halo just touched down, and the problems are more prolific than anyone could have possibly imagined. For casual sci-fi fans, this might cut it barely. For longtime fans of the video game franchise, it's an abomination. I like that term, featuring all the usual suspects in ruined modern adaptations. Contact begins with a sprawling reveal of an insurrectionist camp on the planet, I'm about to butcher this, Madrigal, where Covenant forces are busy excavating a dig site, in search of ancient technology, which appears to be Forerunner. Their forces launch a brutal and bloody assault on the nearby outpost, which introduces audiences to the characters Quan Hai and who ends up the only survivor. Admittedly, the action sequence is superb, pulling no punches while mixing excellent pacing with sweeping camera angles, excellent sonic cues, and a ton of excitement. Says watching Sengeli elites slaughter humans is a pretty cool experience, albeit disturbing. Children's limbs are blown off and adults die a variety of horrible deaths, all without feeling overly exploitive. Things really heat up when the Master Chief arrives on the scene with his silver team of Spartans. The tide turns immediately, showcasing the Spartans doing what they do best, putting down all opposition. The Master Chief, for his part, is rendered incredibly accurate and true to form, right down to his helmet visor, which I don't know about that because the color of it. It's easily the highlight of the episode, swapping cleverly back and forth. And it's done with far more class and sincerity in the first-person sequence in the end of 2005's Doom film adaptation. Now, I did see some of that now, and I still don't know about that. It looked like dog shit to me. But if it's being compared to Doom, it's not like it's, I don't know, meaning anything. So seeing it all from Master Chief's perspective is just icing on the cake. And then he speaks, and his voice sounds identical to someone from The Mandalorian. As if the characters leaped from the Halo universe and then slapped on a new suit of armor. Seriously, it is that noticeable. In fact, as the episode presses on, it's almost impossible to distinguish between the two characters. It's almost as if Paramount studied every single Mandalorian episode and then tried to model their Master Chief on identical no-for-no formula. And that was kind of alluded to early on through the production. We had in terms of the influence. They did reference the Mandalorian, and we covered a little bit of that. He says that's the first sign. Rather than simply bring back longtime Master Chief voice actor Steve Downes for the role, I can't get rid of that. It's an ad. God damn it, man! I should have archived this. Oh well, let me refresh it. And he says, hold on. Yeah, here we go. The showrunners opted to cast the Wire actor Pablo Schreiber for reasons that would become apparent near the end of the episode. When the dust settles, audiences are treated to a typical opening credit sequence that steals its visual cues from a variety of modern shows, Westworld, and yet, particularly Westworld, yet fails to properly utilize Marty O'Donnell's iconic musical theme as the main linchpin, because they don't care, linchpin to build a bridge between the gaming franchise and the TV show. To be fair, the visual quality of various sets and space shots is top notch. Fans even get a glimpse of the High Charity and one of the prophets, Mercy, who speaks the Covenant language with appropriate subtitles layered over top. Then the whole reveal goes out of whack when the character Maki is introduced. Maki is a human female who apparently was spared by the Covenant forces and raised one of their own. 343 Industries development director Frank O'Connor hinted in the past that audiences will learn why she was spared within minutes. That was a lie. But it's obviously going to play out in future episodes. So by introducing a human into the Covenant's ranks, it cheapens the entire experience. The Covenant do not need a human avatar standing in to serve as an... We knew that was going to happen. Said it reeks of cowardice, lack of confidence, and the characters already established throughout the franchise lore. And he says it goes off the rails. He says some typical far left identity politics, stir up trouble and alienate fans. It's bizarre to see the mismatched, altogether politically driven casting decisions. He says the left's push for racial equity has manifested itself in Halo by having people of color outnumber white characters by a factor of 10-1. Normally, this wouldn't be much of an issue if the characters in question were written from the onset to come from a particular racial demographic. And yet race swapping has been brought straight to the forefront with characters like Captain Jacob Keyes. It's worth mentioning that Danny is a great actor with lots of presence and charisma, but the fact that he was hired to race swap the character is blatantly overt and obvious. I've said this before, even about like Idris Elba and Hamdall. Who gives a fuck that you like him as an actor? It's irrelevant. It's a wasted role. And you could have gave that to someone else or a character, even if it was original. But instead, what happens is you swap them, right? It's not necessary. It's not necessary. It doesn't matter how much you like the actor. It doesn't matter how good you think the actor is. It's just such an unnecessary thing. His daughter is played by Olive Gray, who was woefully miscast in his role. Says Halo fans know full well how great Miranda was as a character, but it's impossible to see Gray living up to her as the show goes by. The goal, of course, was to sell the idea of the interracial relationship between Jacob Keyes and Catherine Halsey to architect the Spartan 2 program. Spartan 2, okay. Yes, they did conceive Miranda together in the video game timeline, but the TV show required the obligatory interracial relationship to check box to be ticked. So, here we are. Sorry to all Halo fans out there, but Paramount doesn't care what you think. That's what he says. The episode gives off this female-centric vibe with undoubtedly getting worse over time. Quan-Hai berates and chastises Master Chief while Admirable Margaret struts about trying to sell the notion that she's a powerful leader. Once again, all females need to be in position of power while all men need to be its subordinates. On the racial side, all non-white characters must be running the operation while all white characters must lower their eyes in their place. Says it's no secret that people involved in the creation of the TV show never played a single Halo game in their lives, which is bound to cause problems. Nobody really looks or feels as if they understand this universe they're representing, that the universe they're representing, and that goes double, nay, triple for the Master Chief himself. In short, it's a disaster, he says. The Master Chief of the Halo video games was confident to a fault. Even when he failed, here he looks puzzled, uncertain, and out of his depth. It's so bad that he even cracks a joke in the latter half of the episode, then literally says that was a joke. So he's not Master Chief. And finally, episode hits rock bottom the moment Chief takes his helmet off in order to reveal Pablo Schreiber's face. I'm sure that was in his contract. He needed to have people know that he is the one playing his role. That's how Hollywood works. This was a fatal and suicidal mistake, and it's astonishing to see it happen for in the very first debut episode. Now, they did mention that it was going to happen. I don't remember. Maybe they did mention that it was going to be something that happened after, but it does seem to be, obviously, they didn't waste any time. They said, we're going right into it, first episode. Happened, they said, like the Mandalorian, the lead character's mask persona is what sells them, and revealing the face is a huge no-no. For instance, had the Mandalorian waited until the final episode of season 2, it may have, he said it would have worked. However, it was shown several times prior to that episode, which ended up robbing the character's mystery. Here, Halo goes for broke right out the gate, and it's to its own detriment. He says, in fact, it's a signal that the showrunners lack confidence in Master Chief's iconic pop culture status. That's true. Says this happens when creatives in charge of a decades-long franchise never bother to do their homework. And remember, they said that this was supposed to be introduced to it was necessary, which, again, I don't see how, but whatever. Battles are shot beautifully. The entire aesthetic look of the show is flat out phenomenal and nails all the architecture and the weapons. Yet, for its visual splendor, the modern trappings of bad storytelling seep in its cause for the foundation to rot. He goes on. Long story short, I'm just making sure I didn't miss any news. Yeah, long story short, it's not Halo. It's something that is, and we talked about this on Tuesday night's main event, all the issues. The Lethal Lightning did a great job, who's really knowledgeable on a lot of this lore and stuff. Really breaking it down. They told you they didn't watch the games. Or didn't play them. They said they didn't do that at all. But it's just a common tactic. It's like, again, they have their own stories that they want to tell. So this is probably, they wanted producers or whatever, wanted to tell a sci-fi story that they needed a brand to sell, and they used Halo. They used fucking Halo. And it's not unlike they've done with other brands. It's like, this is the end thing, or this is what they wanted to do. So why don't we use something else that already exists so we can at least get people mildly interested? Because if not, then they wouldn't be. And we'll tell a story and we'll use these characters and we'll have visual aspects that resemble what they may know of. But definitely with the most important thing, how these characters interact with each other, it couldn't be anything further from what you should expect. I've said this before, with decades old franchises, you have to go out of your way to fuck that up. You have to. From at least the continuity aspect. Yeah, I get it. Oh, well, it's a different universe is what they're going to say, but it's still an expectation that people realistically have, and they should have, for something that you're using the brand recognition on the brand name for anyway. So if you don't expect people to at least compare that and have some sort of expectation of who the character is, how they act, don't use the brand. But they're not going to ever do that because they're, number one, they're talentless hacks, but they're cocky. Like, this is what they get off on doing. I think a lot of it's done out of spite. The same thing. And the guy, the article we just read, does the same thing that I've said. Where I've said with comic book stuff, I was like, hey, I've done reviews, remember when I did do them. And I would say, if you are not knowledgeable on any of this work, you're going to find this to be okay. However, if you aren't knowledgeable on it, you're going to hate it. And it's just such a stupid thing, and I end on this note, that they go this route where the characters only them in name. You have to go out of your way to jack that up because normies are going to eat it up regardless. Okay? So why on earth do you feel the need to make these sort of changes when they're going to like it regardless? At minimum, you should want to please both crowds. The crowd that you're trying to please is going to be pleased regardless. But you're sacrificing people that have put a lot of money in this stuff. And this is why I say people that act like canon and continuity don't matter are retarded. But not just that, it's an insult to the customers. This is something that my company is taking so very seriously. It's an insult to the customer when you have people that have put all this money and time and effort and and to be fans of, and then you give them something that says, hey, all of that stuff that you know of, fuck it. We're never going to use it. We're not going to even refer to it. We're going to do our own thing here. Yet we're going to use it. That's an insult. That's the insult to the customer. And companies are getting off on this.
You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.